Have you ever wanted to visit the Pyramids of Giza but worried about the bustling crowds and being hassled? Well, we'll show you how we beat the masses by booking a private tour and avoid the rush to climb the Great Pyramid of Khufu, before exploring the wider Giza Plateau, including this restaurant with a breathtaking view and visiting the iconic Sphinx. Before heading for a preview of the new Grand Egyptian Museum and the ongoing uncertainty on its opening date, and end with a flying visit to Saqqara. So come with us to find out how we did so much in one day. Now, we adopted to stay in downtown Cairo on the Nile, having just one overnight from a 2-day cruise excursion. So set off early for the 30-minute drive to Giza to get to the pyramids for opening time. Now, given the long 2.5 to 3 hour transfer from port side, any cruise ship excursions and larger group tours would arrive later in the day and the site would be at its busiest. So we have made it to the Giza Plateau and to the pyramids, and I'm pleased to say that we got up here fairly early. It's about sort of 7:30 now, 7:45. It does open at 7, but it's actually incredibly hazy early mornings most days. The reason we've got it so early is so we can actually climb the pyramid, 1, before it gets too busy, and number 2, before it gets too hot. And like the previous day, we were escorted by our personal guide and Egyptologist, Imad. And make sure you check out our video from the day before, where he took us on a tour of Cairo Citadel, the original Egyptian museum, and atmospheric old city at night. Now, having a private guide and driver meant we could completely tailor the itinerary to our needs. So in the limited time we had, we would only be able to visit one pyramid. We had to prioritise the climb of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Now, given our early start, you can see how quiet it was on the ascent. But as you will witness, our descent experience was a complete contrast and what was still a relatively quiet time. Here we go, the awkward bit.
Okay. Oh!
You alright?
Yeah, break my head.
God, babe. Now, this first section is perhaps the most challenging of the climb, as due to both the height and incline of the shaft, you have to physically bend forward to make the ascent. And a word of caution, as some might find this a little claustrophobic, particularly as it gets busier and hotter as the day goes on. Now, there is no up or down route marked. And it is here at these ladders that it thankfully opens up into the Great Gallery, and a useful rest stop if needed to avoid the traffic, as the flow of people up and down is pretty continuous. And finally, after all of your exertion, you are rewarded with the entrance to Khufu's burial chamber. Ooh. It might not sound it, but that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But that is like a Stairmaster 3000 meets hot yoga. Now, for this last section, there is no alternative, I'm afraid, but to crawl on your hands and knees through. And aside from the sarcophagus, the tomb is surprisingly bare, unlike the other tombs that you will find in the Valley of the Kings, which you can check out in one of our upcoming videos. Alongside another established Egyptian tradition, an attendant looking for tips to take photos. And although some give begrudgingly, there's a small price to pay to have free reign on content. So carry some small notes with you. Now, the crawl space is the one spot where courtesy does prevail, with thankfully a 1 in, 1 out kind of system. But as we began our descent, you could already begin to see the backlog of people waiting to enter the tomb. And the situation was only getting worse with time, so for the sake of, say, another 30 minutes, we may have gone from having the pyramid pretty much to ourselves to a far less pleasurable experience. So, some debate as to whether to crawl down on your bum. Some people did it leaning forward. I don't think I'd recommend that. I think I'm going to go the bum first approach. How are you doing, babe?
I'm going to go down backwards.
Backwards, so let's try and see who feels the worst at the end of it. This is traffic jam. I think I've lost a few pounds there.
Is there anything to see up there?
Yep, and we've just run into a whole tour group, so it's like gridlock up there.
Oh, wow.
It's that hot.
I get the juicer.
So with the ever-increasing number of visitors, people stopping to exchange pleasantries or disrupt the flow by stopping to take photographs, this was fast becoming a very different experience to our ascent. And this was still barely at 8:30 to 9 a.m. in the morning, and the worst of the groups had yet to arrive. So please, the one piece of advice is get to the pyramids as soon after opening as possible. And another essential tip is take a change of clothing and some deodorant, as we had climbed first thing in the morning, not in the heat of the day, and we were soaked through. And if you're on a group transfer back, you're not going to be very popular. Now I'll put links in the description as always, but we paid about 700 Egyptian pounds for access to the Giza site, which included the Sphinx, and then an additional 1,500 Egyptian pounds to climb Khufu's pyramid. And although we did not have time, you can also purchase additional tickets to visit other pyramids and tombs on the site. But heading now to the tallest point of the Giza Plateau for vantage point views back to the pyramids. And here you'll find no shortage of vendors, particularly if you're looking to do a camel ride. But it is worth noting that the site is extensive, so if walking will take you some considerable time. So having our own guide and driver meant we could escape the crowds yet again and head to somewhere that should be on your itinerary. Nine Pyramids Lounge is a relatively new addition to the Giza Plateau and gives breathtaking views of the pyramids. The indoor restaurant with air conditioning would be a perfect spot for lunch and respite from the midday heat. But given our early start and was barely mid-morning, and having worked up an appetite climbing the pyramid, it was the perfect spot to stop for breakfast with a view. Did I pick another good spot again?
Oh, it's
That's a heck of a view. Now I can only imagine that this place would be incredibly popular at lunchtime, especially as the main restaurant did seem to be set up with tables for large groups. However, it does appear to be an overlooked gem for breakfast and was frankly deserted. And a shame currently, as only appears to be open in the daytime, as would be a great setting in the evening. As they currently don't have a website, I'll put links in the video description to their social media, or like us, you can just ask your guide to make the booking for you. Now, no visit to the Giza Plateau would be complete without visiting the iconic Sphinx. And where next to another market of vendors and more camel rides, you will find a second entrance to the Giza Plateau by the Sound and Light Experience. Now here, do not rush to head straight into the Sphinx courtyard. Instead, follow this wall path where you will be rewarded with a fantastic full-face photo of the Sphinx framed with a pyramid behind. One of the best photo opportunities here, but one that many people miss. So if you're enjoying this video, make sure you check out others in our Resilient Lady series. Where in Egypt, we explore downtown Cairo and show you the best hotel to stay at, before then cruising the Suez Canal to Luxor and Valley of the Kings. Plus other incredible destinations such as Athens, Santorini, Rhodes and Dubai. But most importantly, we please ask that you hit that like and subscribe buttons. It really goes a long way in helping support this channel and for us to bring you even more videos like this in the future. Thanks so much. Now, given how much we had seen so far, it was still only mid-morning, which gave us some much needed time to fit in some additional sites before having to head back to the cruise ship. Though ideally we would have liked much more time in Giza, and particularly to have stayed on into the evening to watch the impressive sound and light show with this incredible backdrop at night. So nice early start on the Giza Plateau means by 10:30 we're actually done before it gets too hot. So we've just literally come down the hill after breakfast at Nine Pyramids Lounge. Just got the Sphinx behind me there. But worth noting that we nearly stayed down here last night. You see just behind us opposite the Sphinx they have the sound and light show. And all these bars and restaurants behind us here have roof terraces, and we were going to stay down here. But then in discussion with our advisor who was helping us put this trip together, said really, apart from that, there's not going to be a lot to do. So check out our previous video where we show you why we were glad we switched to staying in downtown Cairo and the fabulous hotel we stayed in. From where we were able to visit the original Egyptian museum and the treasures of Tutankhamun. However, couldn't resist a preview of the new Grand Egyptian Museum that's opening on the Giza Plateau. So, whistle-stop tour through the Grand Egyptian Museum. Is it actually worth it? Well, it's in soft opening, which just basically means the public foyer is open. So apart from one big obelisk out the front and one big statue inside, there's actually nothing to see. And the cost of this ticket was nearly as much as the others combined. So frankly, until they've got a firm opening date that you can base travel around, I personally, my opinion is, you can fit in other more valuable things into your itinerary. Now, since our visit, the 12 exhibition galleries have now opened, but has been plagued around ambiguity around the official opening day when the Tutankhamun collection and Khufu's solar boat will finally take residence. Now, this had dragged on for years until finally they gave an opening date of the 3rd of July 2025. But just a month before this date, the opening was pushed back again until the end of 2025 and still remains incredibly vague. So all in all, I'm glad we actually stopped off at the Grand Egyptian Museum. I mean, it is a fantastic facility, and you know, compared to the restrictions they've got at the original old building at the original Egyptian Museum, this place will be absolutely phenomenal when it is actually open. Now, another reality to be aware of is the inclusion of souks and markets in the itinerary, and even on a private tour will be dressed up as rest stops. Now, like tipping, this is very much considered fair game in the tourist culture. So if not interested, just be firm and polite and explain to your guide to look after him with a decent tip. You're there to see ancient wonders, not buy a carpet. And lastly, and admittedly quite adventurously, we headed to Saqqara. This site is less commercial and overrun than the Giza pyramids, but actually predates it with the first recognised Step Pyramid.
This one is the Djoser or King Djoser Step Pyramids, the oldest one ever done.
Now ideally we would have wanted to take 2 days to show you everything we have featured in this video, especially when the Grand Egyptian Museum fully opens. We, however, were completely captivated by the history and culture of ancient Egypt, and very much treated this as a recce, as definitely plan to come back again in the future, and most importantly, for longer. Now, I'll put links in the description as always, but we made our arrangements through Egypt Adventures Travel and would definitely use them again. Having discovered them online, their founder Gus is an absolute authority on all things to do with Egyptian culture and travel. And aside from running their own group tours, also operate on a consultation basis, putting together bespoke itineraries, building around our individual requirement, and then layer in their own expertise. Before sourcing a reputable local tour operator, Lulu's Holidays, and providing us with vetted local guides and trained Egyptologists to complete the experience.
His name is Cecil Malapi here. You see here. Cecil or Cecil Malapi. Cecil Malapi, right? Yes, 1928. This
And this is definitely a case where you should listen to your local expert and take their advice, as our guide Emad had advised us against going to the Grand Egyptian Museum, saying there was very little to see, and focus more of our time on exploring Saqqara. So although the Grand Egyptian Museum, known as the Gem, is well worth a visit now, for us we lost valuable time which we could have been spending exploring Saqqara, because ultimately this is where the real hands-on history was at. Being able to get on your hands and knees and experience it up close. And most frustratingly ran out of time to actually enter the Step Pyramid itself. However, with a cruise ship to catch and a 3-hour drive to get there, allowing for delays, we didn't want to take the risk. Which was a shame, as the tombs were far more elaborately decorated than those at Giza. Though like us, if you did not have time to explore the tombs, this popular spot on the exterior seemed to draw everybody's attention, as originally held the oldest life-size statue of a pharaoh ever discovered, And although a replica now sits in its place, the original can be found in the Egyptian Museum. So cutting short our visit, it was now time to head for the 3-hour journey back to port side, allowing plenty of time and contingency for embarkation, but I'm pleased to say we made it comfortably with time to spare. So join us in the next episode where we take the unique experience of cruising through the Suez Canal, transitioning from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea on our way to Dubai. So aside from the ports of call, this is what made this itinerary utterly unique and memorable. But why was it shortly after our sailing that cruise ships stopped operating in the Suez Canal, and when will they return? So subscribe to watch this or one of our many other varied destination videos. But if you've enjoyed this video, drop us a like, comment or a share, and most importantly, thanks for watching and see you again soon.